Speaking of the SEC, the number one portal quarterback is following Lane Kiffin to LSU. Sam Leavitt. I mean, there was some drama. There was some courtside seats at a basketball game. Then there was the Damon Williams news from Washington. Then he makes some other travels. Lane Kiffin has to follow him on a plane. I mean, it was like a rom-com. Sam Leavitt's going to LSU, and it's reported that it's anywhere between $4 to $6 million. One, that's a lot of money for a quarterback. That's a lot of money for a one-year quarterback in college football. But two, is this enough? Is this enough for LSU? And obviously a year where he was expecting some of these Ole Miss players to follow him. It hasn't happened yet. Now with Pete Golding, he's kind of bunkered down. Is this enough for LSU to get back to being relevant in the SEC?
It's a good question. I feel like they missed out on Brendan Sorsby, and they ended up going with Sam Leavitt. Is that a huge downgrade? I would honestly
wait a minute.
No.
You think Sorsby's a better addition than Leavitt? That's where you're hanging
I believe
your
he
hat?
wasn't he ranked 1? I think Sorsby was ranked number 1.
It depends where you look, but I'm asking you, what's your thoughts on that?
I think you could make the argument Sorsby might be slightly better. I don't know if he'd be as much better as what they got paid difference wise. I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but some of the numbers are being floated around. I mean, the transfer portal is insane right now. Where do I apply to put my name in there just as like a gamble? Who knows if they'll pick me up? But I don't know if it's that big of a difference, but I think, Sorsby definitely has a lot of talent. And Texas Tech obviously wanted him. So LSU getting this pick second. The way I look at this is they fell to Sorsby. They ended up with Leavitt, and I think Leavitt's legit. I watched him. I'm actually wearing this shirt today, funnily enough. I watched him tear Iowa State up in the Big 12 championship. It was ugly, and that was the year that they didn't have Jordan Tyson, and I was like, oh, they're going to be just fine. Iowa State's secondary is unbelievable. If they just shut down like their second-tier wide receiver and Cam Scatterbo, there's no offensive production from this team. That was not how it went, and Sam Leavitt has great legs and is very accurate. So I do think that he will see great success at LSU, but I wonder where the rest of the roster is at. The SEC is apparently the greatest conference on the entire planet, and it doesn't really matter how they perform in non-conference or in bowl games because they play the toughest teams week in and week out. It is unbelievably hard. There is nothing like the SEC, allegedly. So I wonder if LSU as a team is completely ready. I wonder, I think Leavitt is capable. I think he's very talented. But what does the rest of LSU look like is my first question.
Yeah, they've added some pieces around him as well. I mean, obviously they're going to be building up. LSU was not a good enough team this past year with what happened with losing, obviously Brian Kelly and everything happened. Garrett Nussmeier moving on to the NFL draft as well. Yeah. Right now it looks like the expected weapons for the offense. Obviously, Sam Leavitt at quarterback. And for the record, I think Leavitt's a better guy than Sorsby. LSU fans, if you're listening to this, okay. Nick's the only lunatic on here. I think Leavitt's insane. I think I've watched him play hero ball for years now. But you got Barry, you got Durham at running back, you got Wilson who came over from Florida at your wide receiver. You still got Watkins. Watkins comes over from Ole Miss. You still have Anderson, and you have Green at tight end, and then Jace Brown from Kansas State is with LSU now as well. And Jace Brown is an absolute unit. He's fun. He's fun. And so you're gonna have two Big 12 guys, most likely being some top targets with Sam Leavitt and Jace Brown moving into the SEC with Lane Kiffin. I'm interested to see what Lane Kiffin does here. Obviously, he had some great offenses at Ole Miss. You go back to the Jackson Dart days. You go back to even farther than that. With the Will Levis days. So there's a lot of things that he did that were super impressive. Did I say Will Levis? Will Levis is a Kentucky guy, wasn't he?
Yes.
Did I just mess that up? Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that. SEC guys are going to bury me on this show. No, but other than that, I mean, I think Sam Leavitt is going to be interesting for LSU. My biggest question is I just don't know if it's enough to get them over the hump in year one with LSU. And that is a huge expectation with LSU. There is no, we need a down year, or it's okay to have a down year. Even when they had an interim coach this year, they were so mad that they were performing the way they were. If Lane Kiffin doesn't come in and perform after all the drama, after the sitcom that just happened, the reality show that happened between Ole Miss and LSU, if he doesn't perform right away, LSU is going to have a bad day. Fans are going to have a bad day.
Yeah, I think if you want to talk about, like, everyone wants to talk about Matt Campbell at Penn State, oh, get ready. Like, Iowa State gave you such a big leash. It's not going to be the same thing out here in Happy Valley. I think there's a very real conversation that Lane Kiffin has a shorter leash than Matt Campbell does at LSU. And I don't know. I think Sam Leavitt was the best play that they could make. I don't think that this was like a wrong decision from LSU, but I think that, it's going to come down to the rest of the team around him. That's just the way that I see it. I think he's a very talented quarterback. And like, yeah, is he better than Sorsby or not? Like, we're really splitting hairs here. And that's what the point I was trying to make with, like, I don't know what the difference is. If it's like a $2 million difference in college ball, that just like looks like, oh my gosh, like Texas Tech is going to run away with a championship. But it's like, it's really not that big of a deal. I don't think the difference is that much. Obviously, the money is huge, but if you were comparing, like, at the NFL level, it's like comparing like 200 grand. Like, it's like not that big of a deal to me, especially when Texas Tech is involved. So I think they're both very talented, and I think Sam Leavitt has the opportunity to take LSU to new heights and to bring Lane Kiffin some success right away. I think Lane Kiffin is a pretty solid, if not a great evaluator of talent. And I think that, like, this is the guy that they had to bring in. It's just going to come down to the rest of the team, right? And can those kinds of guys handle playing in the toughest conference of all time? I mean, obviously, when they play other conferences, it doesn't really matter. But when they play in the SEC, geez, they really turn the intensity up, man. I don't know if the rest of this roster are completely ready for that. Hey, quick timeout. If you haven't already, hit subscribe down below. We're live literally every morning during the week talking about the biggest stories in sports. So you hitting subscribe is completely free and helps us out more than you know. It's a win-win all around. All right, back to the clip.
Sarcasm. I love the sarcasticness here on Tuesday. What? I'm sure all the LSU fans are really going to appreciate that. Matt Corral, by the way, is the guy I was thinking of as the guy before Jackson Dart. I knew I had to look it up. I had to make sure I knew there was one other guy that had some success before Jackson Dart did at Ole Miss, and it's been one of those days for me on this Tuesday. But overall, I do think LSU is going to be a good team. They're going to be eligible for a bowl. But of course, absolutely. Like, is that enough? Like, if you go 8-4 in year one under Lane Kiffin at LSU, like, what are you doing? Are you saying, hey, look, that's just not enough? Fire Lane Kiffin? Are we at that mode already? Because there's going to be certain people who are already there in year one. If 8-4 is the only thing that happens to Lane Kiffin, I think that's a great year, especially after the way that you just had with Brian Kelly, what he's done over the last couple of years. And of course, got him to an SEC championship a few years back, but still underperformed with Daniels at quarterback. So yeah. I think he's got to build it up the way that you expect to. When you look at how he built up Ole Miss, right? In 2020, in his first year, now it's 2020, he was 5-5. Then he immediately goes 10-3 in 2021, takes a step back in 2022, goes 8-5. Then in 2023, goes 11-2, 10-3, 11-1. So if you want to compare this, if you take 2020 out the window, because no one wants to remember that year. And his first full year at Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin was 10-3. Does that make your expectations higher if you're an LSU fan, or are you still trying to be grounded and saying, if they go 8-4 in the first year, I'll be happy with that if I can see some progress?
No, I think LSU fans are expecting at least 9 wins, probably double digits. I mean, but looking at their schedule here, if I've got it right, this is rough. I'm looking on LSU's website, LSU Sports, so hope I've got it here. Clemson, I don't know who Clemson's going to be. They should be able to beat Louisiana Tech, so that's at least one. Ole Miss, that's going to be a huge game. I think Ole Miss, honestly, is going to get up for that. I'm not going to give LSU that one. TAMU, I don't know. That's kind of a tough one too. They were a weird team this year. They preyed on the bottom of the SEC, so maybe they get that one.
Changes with Texas A&M though.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe I don't know. I'll give them that one. McNeese, they snag that one, of course. Kentucky, I think they can win. Mississippi State, I think they can win. Auburn, I'm going to say they can win that. Alabama, I don't think they get Alabama. Texas, let's say no. Tennessee, let's say no. They go on a skid. And that puts them at like a potentially 7 or 8 win season. So they have a relatively tough road. And I just did that off the top of my head. I understand like that's not really a whole lot of thinking going into that. But LSU, they made the right move with Leavitt here. That's my ultimate point. This was the play. But can they build everything else up? Because you're exactly right. There isn't a lot of leash on Lane Kiffin here. He's going to need to probably have I would say an 8-win season at the bare minimum, and that's already a level of like, is this the guy? Did we make the right move? Which is crazy. And then in the next 2 years, probably needs to get to that double-digit mark and make the college football playoff, if I had to guess.
Yeah, the best thing about it, looking at it, is they do play Bama in Baton Rouge. They do play Texas in Baton Rouge, so that does help them. I think they win out
I
their
don't think they win
non-conference
those.
games, but like, can you get 5 or 6 wins in that SEC schedule in year one with Lane Kiffin? And I know, like, he obviously is used to being against SEC schools. He was just at Ole Miss, but like,
Right.
this is a different roster. He hasn't had a chance to build this roster. And we've had
Yeah.
some conversations in the past about Lane Kiffin with like him building his recruits. And like there's a big stat going out there right now. Like how many 4 or 5 star recruits did he have before Pete Golding in his first couple of years of Ole Miss compared to his last? So like how much of the recruiters is he bringing with him to LSU? And like how important is that? And then you could also make the conversation is how important are 4 and 5 stars even more anymore? Because Kurt Zignetti is changing that entire conversation, right? So there's a lot of things that are going into it. I think this is going to be a very important year, although it's the first year for Lane Kiffin at LSU, and I'm right there with you. I don't think if you get to 8-4, personally looking at the schedule, I think that's an impressive first year based
Yeah.
on all the things he has to overcome and all the things that haven't already gone right for him. But I don't think that's going to be enough for LSU fans, no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think the fans won't be happy with it, but I don't think that that's like a fireable offense, basically. If he gets 1 win, I wonder if he leave. It might be 1.5 seasons he's coaching there, so just something crazy. But I think if he gets a bowl game, if he gets to 7 wins, I think he probably gets more than a year, no matter what. It'd be hard to imagine LSU firing their coach literally in the first year. But it's going to make the second year a lot shorter of a leash. So I think at 8 wins, he buys himself probably at least 2-3 more years. But LSU just does feel to me like this place where you have to win right now. Like you don't get time. And that's why they brought in a guy like Lane Kiffin, who has seen success at the SEC level. And we expect it here and pretty much immediately. So Sam Leavitt was the move. I mean, he was the absolute right guy to bring at the quarterback position. It's just about building up the rest of the roster now. Hey, just wanted to thank you for watching the entire video. If you haven't already, consider hitting subscribe down below. It helps the channel grow and helps us bring better content to you guys every single day. We're live literally every Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 Eastern talking about the biggest stories in sports. So if you haven't dropped by, you really should. We love interacting with chatters, hearing your guys' opinions. You could easily become a part of the show. So hit subscribe and tell a friend. I'll see you in the morning.